Hello, welcome to my studio. I am Jodi Reeb and I've been a full-time artist in Minneapolis working with encaustic paint, and I want to show you today some of my paintings and my sculptures that I'm working on and give you a little tour of the studio. My studio is located in the historic North Loop area of Minneapolis, downtown, and I've been a co-op member with 23 other artists for 15 years. And I feel so grateful and lucky that I get to do what I love every day. So my work is nature-based, and oftentimes it's representational, where this is an abstract landscape, and then sometimes it goes more toward the abstract. I like to work with seeds and leaves and trees in my work. And encaustic painting I discovered about 15 years ago, and I've been hooked on it ever since. I love the way the paint kind of blends together and melts together, and you can see that with a close-up here of the encaustic landscape. So these paintings are a series of encaustic paint and metallic paint on acrylic panels. And these are sort of, I think of these as like seeds blowing in the wind in a way, so they're all individually installed. And when I'm discovering and painting these, I pretend that they're like found objects. And so for this series, I actually used found pieces, different circular panels, platters, candle holders, like whatever kind of surfaces I was looking for was like a lot of metal. And I'm using the encaustic paint with it, as well as metallic paints like the iron and oxide. And patinas, I love the look of it as if it was outside, left outside for many days. And the watery quality. So I kind of even thinking about earth, air, fire, and water with a lot of my work too. And the beeswax definitely gives me that chance to do the fiery melting of the fusing. So I went to art school at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, and originally I started as a painter, but I discovered printmaking and I loved the idea of surface and started doing woodcuts. And for me now, encaustic painting sort of involves all those different aspects, so it's kind of sculptural qualities with it. Very much process oriented. I've always just loved a long drawn out process, even more than what the original or the end product's gonna be. And so this painting really shows the process especially. And this is a painting just iron oxide with rust. And I just fell in love with that idea. So originally I was doing these on my circular paintings kind of as one of the layers. And then I thought, what if I did a painting that just has the surface of rust? So I really was able to express that in this kind of painting. And now I consider myself like a painter who's also a printmaker, and using kind of that process that I discovered in art school. So this is a series of encaustic paintings on acrylic panels, and I started playing with this idea of doing dimensional wall sculptures about 20 years ago as well. I was working with circles in my paintings, and I thought, what if I took the circle off the painting and onto the wall? And so I started painting these, especially because of the negative space. So they're all individually installed, and I can just kind of play with the space whenever I'm in it and just see what looks best. For this series, I did do more of a bright, colorful series, and I tend to work in this kind of palette. The paintings are elevated with different depths from the wall, and I'm sort of playing with that idea as painting a sculpture. Recently, I really tried to expand that idea of working off the wall. So during COVID last year, I started working with dimensional wall sculptures in aluminum, and I wanted to experiment with this idea for about a year. And when a lot of my workshops were canceled, then I had the time. I call it, I've got nothing but time, so I started playing with this idea. And these are aluminum sculptures that I'm attaching to a backer. And then I am painting them with enamel, and then sometimes I'm doing the encaustic paint on top of that. And my idea with these is I wanted to work with an organic shape and really just see how far I could push that in terms of something that's between plants-like, or maybe it's water. Depending on the color that I'm painting it, it definitely has like a biomorphic form, organic form. So here is another example, and I feel like every time I change the color on these, like it evokes a different feeling, and it's always fun to see to hear what people are seeing in my work based on that, just the color change. So I want to tell you about one project I'm really excited about right now. Is I'm doing my first public outdoor sculpture at the University of Minnesota. They have a brand new conservatory where they're doing plant research, and this is like a maquette of one of the sculptures that I presented for the project. And I was kind of thinking about this being like a big giant piece of lichen, and it's going to be attached to a backer like this, which is aluminum. And I designed this whole backer to be like cells, like plant cells. And the sculpture overall will be 7 feet by 10 feet. So if you can imagine this like blown up, large scale aluminum, and it's going to be installed March 2021. So stay tuned for that. So about 3 years ago, I was awarded a Minnesota State Arts Board grant, and I've always been taking photographs as part of my practice too, but I never really knew how to make art out of them. And so I received this grant, and then I was able to explore this idea that I've had, and printed my imagery on tissue paper. So this is a double exposure, originally taken with film. I have a vintage Nikon camera, and I'm taking a photograph, and then without advancing the film, I'm taking another photograph. So if you can see, there's 2 different landscapes within this image, and the beeswax allows me to sort of embed that image, and then I'm also enhancing it by adding some texture in the sky, and then I also balance the foreground with this, kind of adding this red in the beginning. And I'm really playing with this idea of a photograph as a painting, and then maybe it's a painting as a photograph. So the photograph really leads me with the painting, but I also want them to collaborate and kind of work together on an equal level. Sharing this story about when I first knew I was going to be an artist. I was 5 years old, and I had large paper that was 24 by 36 newsprint, And my friend and I were using crayons to draw animals at the time. It was like our phase of what we were working on. And I decided that I wanted to roll up these drawings, and I put a rubber band around them and put them in my wagon and started selling them through the neighborhood, pulling them around door to door to my neighbors. And I was selling them for $1. And it was kind of a cloudy day, and it was funny because I sold 2 of the drawings door to door. One person just gave me $1 as a donation, but didn't buy a painting or a drawing. And then as I was going home, it actually started to sprinkle a little bit with rain, and my drawings got a little wet, but the seed was planted that I knew I wanted to be an artist, and that making a living from art was possible. Honestly, it was like such a fun moment in my life. Another project I'm working on is paintings like these, my circles, are going to be placed in a mental health care facility, and they're going to be suspended from the ceiling, which is new, so I'm really excited to see what that looks like. And I really appreciate now that healthcare settings are having artwork be part of the whole atmosphere of the clinic, because when I was growing up, a lot of times I would be with my mom in the clinic, and we could tell that the artwork wasn't really thought of, and so now it's like full circle for me to have my work in those kinds of settings, and I hope that my work brings some peace and some joy to people as they are waiting. One aspect that I love of being an artist is that I also get to share my love in encaustic painting. And I've been teaching for about 20 years, and about 5 years here in my studio I've been teaching the painting. And what I love about that is I can sort of share my excitement all over again with artists. And I've also been teaching online, so that's been a really fun new expansion of reaching and sort of making the world a little smaller. And what I think about when I'm teaching is that I want artists to discover their voice. I want them to get really comfortable with the medium. Encaustic painting has a lot of techniques with it, but it's really about kind of delving into it and just deciding what works best for you and your artwork. So I really want to encourage artists to have this intuitive, joyful, fun process as they're making work. And when I'm teaching too, I talk about that subject matter. What is it you're trying to say with your work? And that kind of narrows down all the beautiful, wonderful possibilities of making work with different mediums, and especially encaustic, because there's so many amazing techniques.